I was halfway through reheating a plate of chicken and dressing from the night before, glass of wine in hand, wearing the kind of oversized hoodie that says, "I have no plans, but I do have opinions." That's when my phone rang. I almost didn't answer because nothing good happens after 9 p.m., and definitely not when the caller ID says Maple Grove Assisted Living. That's the place where my mom, Teresa Martin, 74, former librarian, sweet as syrup but sharp as vinegar, had been living for the last 2 years. "Hi, Ms. Martin," the voice said, polite and weary. "I hate to bother you after hours, but we still haven't received the rent payment for September or October, and if it doesn't come through by Friday, we'll have to escalate." Escalate. That word hit me like a slap. I sat there blinking at my untouched wine glass, trying to understand how 2 months of rent, $3, $200 per month, mind you, had just vanished. There had to be a mistake. I mean, for the past year I'd been sending money to my brother Marcus every month, like clockwork. He had the login to the joint account. He swore up and down he was taking care of the bills. Said it kept things simple. So I did what any overworked, emotionally exhausted daughter does when told her mother might be evicted. I didn't panic. I investigated. I logged into the bank app with shaking fingers, scrolling through the activity feed. My contributions were there clear as day. A direct transfer of $1,600 on the 1st and 15th of each month. September? Paid. October? Paid. November? Already queued. So where the hell was the money? That's when I noticed something strange. On the same days I transferred funds into the account, Marcus had pulled out matching amounts in cash. Not transfers to Maple Grove. Not checks. Cash. And not once. Every single time. I sat there, stomach churning, rereading the withdrawals. Sometimes $1,600 straight. Other times $1,400, and then a random $200 charge at a damn sportsbook app. I actually said, "Oh, no he didn't," out loud, which made my cat look up at me like even she was disappointed. I called him. "Yo," he said, sounding sleepy. "Why is Mom 2 months behind on rent?" I asked. Calm. Too calm. "Man, I don't know what you're talking about. I've been paying it." I saw the statements. "You're pulling the money out in cash." There was a long pause. "Well, yeah," he said finally, "it's easier that way." "For what?" "For placing parlay bets." Another pause. Then, "You're always so dramatic. It's not like she's on the street." I swear to God, I momentarily left my body. My soul took a walk around the block just so it wouldn't commit a felony. He went on, rambling about how it's been a hard year, and he needed a little help, and Mom would understand. No, she wouldn't. The woman raised us both on a single salary and peanut butter sandwiches. She didn't skip dental work so Marcus could bet on the Colts covering the spread. I got off the phone, my heart pounding. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, staring at my now cold chicken and dressing, and made a decision that tasted like steel in my mouth. If Marcus wanted a game, he just placed the wrong bet. The next morning, I woke up with that kind of slow, creeping dread you get before a dentist appointment or a family function with more wine than honesty. I skipped breakfast, brewed my strongest coffee, double scoop, dark roast, black like the truth, and sat down at my laptop with a folder labeled Marcus Fire in all caps. It was time to do what I do best, organize other people's messes. I'm a school administrator. I run budgets, payroll, scheduling. You give me a pile of chaos, and I will color-code it, label it, and give you bar graphs. But this wasn't a budget. This was betrayal wearing my mother's name like a mask. I downloaded every bank statement from the last 18 months, every single page. There were the deposits, my transfers, regular as sunrise. And right beside them, cash withdrawals, ATM pulls from gas stations, random gas station mini-marts, and one particularly bold $900 withdrawal from a strip mall ATM in Broad Ripple labeled Oasis Lounge. I Googled it. You don't go there for a sandwich, I'll tell you that. Some entries were coded to Cash App Marcus. One had a note that literally said loan to self. This man was robbing my mother blind and writing himself IOUs like he was the Federal Reserve. I made a spreadsheet. In column A, dates. In column B, Claire's transfers. Column C, Marcus's withdrawals. Column D, my notes, snarky, furious, and color-coded. My favorite? October 1st, Claire sends $1,600, followed by Marcus withdraws $1,400, and then a $200 charge at betinit.com. My note? Apparently, Mom's dementia fund is Marcus's fantasy football subscription now. By the time I finished, it was noon and my stomach was hollow with rage. I called Maple Grove to confirm. Yes, they had only received one payment in the last 3 months. And yes, they were preparing to report the debt. I felt sick. So I did what my therapist calls externalizing anger in a safe environment, and what I call blowing up Janine's phone. Janine is our little sister. 35, yoga mom, flaky as a croissant, and full-time defender of Marcus. When she finally answered, she was driving. I could hear that damn meditation podcast in the background. Janine, Marcus has been stealing Mom's money, I said, without ceremony. Not mismanaging. Stealing. She sighed. Claire, you always assume the worst. You know he's been going through a lot since the divorce. So he funded his emotional recovery with Mom's rent money? She went quiet. I could hear the turn signal clicking. He said you were being aggressive. That you're trying to take control of everything. Oh, so now I'm the villain for caring where our disabled mother sleeps at night? I'm just saying, maybe don't make this a federal case. And there it was. That same tone they always used when I asked hard questions. Calm condescension with a side of guilt. I ended the call before I started yelling. I stared out the window for a while, watching leaves fall and people live ordinary, non-betrayed lives. Then I opened a new tab and started looking up lawyers who specialize in elder financial abuse in Indiana. Turns out, under Indiana Code Section 35-46-1-12, it's a Class 6 felony to misappropriate funds intended for the care of a dependent. Marcus hadn't just been stupid. He'd broken the law. I smiled, cold and small. You wanted to gamble, Marcus? Let's raise the stakes. There's something distinctly deranged about trying to plan a polite family dinner when you're actively compiling evidence to legally bury 2 of the attendees. I wasn't in the mood for casserole diplomacy, but I needed to watch them lie in real time, to see if they flinched. So I texted. Me. Dinner this Saturday. Mom's house. 6 p.m. Just the 3 of us. Janine responded immediately with a thumbs up. Marcus replied, cool, like he wasn't a walking federal crime. I spent the next 2 days compiling a greatest hits printout of bank statements, annotated with post-it notes, highlighters, and one very satisfying red pen. If this was going to be war, I was going to fight it like the most dangerous kind of woman, a well-prepared one. By Saturday, I had everything printed, stapled, and tucked into a black folder labeled proof. I showed up early to Mom's place. She was at the day program Maple Grove ran on weekends, and set the table with 3 place settings and enough tension to strangle someone. When they walked in, I almost laughed. Janine was in one of those long cardigans that say Instagram therapist, and Marcus had the nerve to wear a Colts jersey like he was just here to eat wings and talk fantasy pics. We made small talk for approximately 8 minutes. Janine asked about my job. Marcus complimented the wine like I hadn't just caught him stealing retirement funds. I nodded along, smiling the way women do when they're holding in an earthquake. Then I pulled out the folder. Before dessert, I said, we need to talk. Marcus leaned back like he was gearing up for a debate. Janine blinked. Claire, what is this? This is every dollar I've transferred into Mom's account for the last 18 months, I said. And every withdrawal Marcus made. In cash. Unaccounted for. Marcus scoffed. Oh, come on, what? You've been spying on me? No, I said calmly. I've been watching you steal. He laughed. Claire, you always make things sound worse than they are. Janine tried to play peacemaker. Okay, let's all take a breath. Maybe it's not stealing. Maybe it was just... What, Janine? A misunderstanding? Did the $900 Marcus took on October 5th misunderstand its way into a nightclub ATM? Marcus's smile fell. His eyes flickered. That was my first real win. You're twisting this, he muttered. I paid for other stuff. Gas. Groceries. Stuff for Mom. Marcus, I've paid the rent, the medical supplies, and her food service. Every month. You were supposed to cover incidentals. So, explain the Betterknit.com charges. Or the Oasis Lounge withdrawal. Or the $300 to Venmo at Hot Girl Vibes 93. Janine actually choked on her wine. He stood up. You're making a scene. No, Marcus. I'm making a record. You should be grateful I brought this to dinner instead of to court. Janine glared. Why are you always like this? You love acting superior. No, I said. I just stopped pretending theft was family tradition. Marcus stormed out. Janine said I was tearing the family apart. I stayed and cleared the table, then left the dishes for them to wash. If they thought that was the confrontation, they hadn't seen anything yet. I don't know if you've ever looked your own brother in the eye while he's stealing from your mother and then been told you're the problem, but it's clarifying. Like staring into the sun and realizing, oh, this whole time it wasn't light, it was fire. After that family dinner disaster, I didn't bother playing nice. I stopped texting. Stopped emailing. I got quiet, which in my family is when you should start praying. That Monday, I scheduled a consultation with a local elder law attorney named Marcy Lewin. Older white woman, no-nonsense bun, gray suit, the energy of someone who would destroy your life in court and then remind you to hydrate. I liked her immediately. She reviewed the folder, my beautifully color-coded evidence binder, without blinking. After 10 minutes, she looked up and said, "You've got him." I raised my eyebrows. Like, legally? Oh, legally, morally, spiritually. You've got him cornered, she said, flipping a page. Under Indiana law, this is not just unethical, it's criminal. Specifically, elder financial abuse. A Class 6 felony. And if your mom's suffering any cognitive decline, that makes him her fiduciary, which adds civil penalties. I leaned back in the chair. For the first time in weeks, my spine relaxed. So I can sue? You can do a hell of a lot more than sue, she said. But before we go nuclear, you need control. Power of attorney? I asked. She nodded. Exactly. If you get POA, you can lock down the accounts, file charges, seek reimbursement, the whole shebang. Right now you're just the concerned daughter. You need to become her legal protector. I exhaled. I hadn't realized how much I'd needed someone to say, "You're right. This is real. You're not overreacting." So I filed the paperwork. It helped that Mom had already named me her medical proxy last year after Marcus missed her follow-up MRI because he was tied up. When I asked what that meant, he said, "You don't want to know." That was when the seed of this whole thing was planted. The capacity assessment came next, required by law. A court-appointed social worker visited Mom at Maple Grove. She was sweet, lucid in moments, but the dementia was settling in like fog. Still, she recognized me. Asked if I had brought my notebook again. She meant the binder. I told her I did. "You always liked your facts," she said, smiling. "Even in Sunday school." When the POA came through 2 weeks later, I cried in the parking lot of the courthouse. Not sobbing. Just one long, quiet cry that felt like taking a bath in my own backbone. I had the keys now. And I was done playing the good daughter who keeps her mouth shut so Thanksgiving isn't awkward. I opened new accounts in Mom's name. I locked down the old ones. I called Maple Grove and gave them my direct number. I ordered full transaction histories from every institution Marcus had touched. Then I hired a forensic accountant. Because revenge is sweet, but itemized revenge? That's delicious. If you've never worked with a forensic accountant, let me paint the picture for you. Imagine a polite little spreadsheet sorcerer who sees through lies like they're printed in bold font. Mine was a soft-spoken, ex-IRS investigator named Sonia Walsh. She wore cardigan sets and carried a leather laptop bag like it was a weapon. I find patterns, she said in our first meeting, especially the kind people don't want found. God, I liked her. I handed over everything, the bank records, the Venmo screenshots, the ATM receipts, the laughably bad lies Marcus had spun about using cash for household things. She took one look and said, "This isn't just sloppy. This is systematic." 3 weeks later, she came back with the report. She'd traced every dollar like a detective in orthopedic shoes. She even found a few Marcus had clearly hoped no one would question, like the $180 PayPal transfer labeled church donation that ended up going to a fantasy sports site, or the $300 labeled groceries that led straight to a down payment on a PS5. Total theft? $84,726.42. 84,000. Let me tell you something. I thought I was prepared for that number. I was not. I stared at that total like it had punched me in the chest. That was 2 years of my contributions, Mom's Social Security, her savings, her dignity, gone to football bets and liquor store runs. And probably a lap dance or two, courtesy of Hot Girl Vibes 93. Sonia also found something I hadn't expected. Janine, our darling little sister, with her organic smoothie shop she was always about to launch, had received nearly $11,000 in loans from Marcus, transferred directly from Mom's accounts. Most were labeled investment seed or business support. One was simply labeled, "Just give it to her. Don't tell Claire." It felt like a slap. The betrayal wasn't just Marcus, loud and obvious. It was Janine, too quiet, slippery, always playing Switzerland until she had her hand in the till. I remember sitting on my couch, wine in one hand, the forensic report in the other, and just vibrating with fury. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was the ease of it. The way they'd carved pieces out of our mother's life without blinking. I knew then that this couldn't just be about recovery. This had to be about reckoning. I called my lawyer, Marcy, and said one sentence. I want it formal. Within the week, we had drafted demand letters, notarized, certified, and signed. Each one detailed the exact amount stolen, the source, and the civil consequences. They were beautifully brutal, like courtroom poetry. But I didn't send them yet. No. That would have been too easy. Because Thanksgiving was coming. And I had a new tradition to introduce, serving truth with the stuffing. Thanksgiving has always been a strange performance in my family. Everyone shows up smiling, dressed like a JCPenney commercial, pretending we haven't been side-eyeing each other through passive-aggressive group texts all year. But this time? This year? I walked in knowing I was about to detonate the entire production. I wore navy. The kind of suit that says, I own property, debt-free, and I'm not here to play with you. I didn't bring pie. I brought a full leather tote bag stuffed with 39 pages of notarized hell. Dinner was at Aunt Gloria's neutral ground. Gloria's one of those family members who doesn't believe in conflict. She'll host Satan himself as long as he brings a side dish, and doesn't cuss near the kids. When I arrived, Janine was already there, lighting a soy candle and humming like she hadn't robbed our mother blind through the back door of Marcus's lies. Marcus rolled in 10 minutes later, wearing designer sneakers he definitely couldn't afford and slapping people on the back like he didn't owe anyone $84,000. We did the usual. Blessed the food, passed plates, pretended. I watched Janine fill her plate with organic kale salad and whisper to her toddler about being grateful. I smiled. I waited. And when the plates were cleared and people started settling in with drinks and desserts, I stood up. Before we do the family slideshow, I said calmly, I have something to share. The room stilled. Even Uncle Troy stopped mid-spoonful of pumpkin pie. I pulled out the tote bag and began handing out copies of the report, each one bound, tabbed, and labeled with a post-it note for the relevant thief. Marcus took his copy with a lazy grin. Oh, what's this? Another one of Claire's financial lectures. No, I said. It's a forensic audit of Mom's accounts and a formal demand for restitution, with notarized documentation. Happy Thanksgiving. Silence. Like vacuum of space silence. Janine blinked down at her copy, her mouth falling open as she read the first page. Claire, this is crazy. No, I said, still calm. What's crazy is that you accepted 11 grand from Marcus that was stolen from Mom's care account, then called me dramatic when I asked where her medication money went. Marcus laughed once, sharp and ugly. You're really doing this here? Yes, I said. Because the stealing happened quietly in shadows. But the reckoning? That deserves an audience. I looked around the table. You have until January 15th to repay your portion in full, or I press charges. Elder financial abuse is a felony in the state of Indiana. If you don't believe me, ask my lawyer. Her number's in the folder. Aunt Gloria opened her mouth, closed it. Uncle Troy muttered, well, damn. Marcus shoved his chair back. You're insane. No, I said. I'm just done being the only one in this family with a conscience and a calculator. Janine started crying. Marcus called me a sociopath. I picked up a cookie, bit into it, and said with my mouth full, you've got 45 days. Enjoy dessert. And then I left. No slamming, no shouting. Just the soft click of the door behind me, and the echo of everything they couldn't take back. You know that moment in a movie where the hero walks away from the explosion and doesn't look back? That was me, leaving Aunt Gloria's house with my tote bag slung over my shoulder like a priestess who'd just delivered the gospel of get your sh*t together. I didn't speed. I didn't cry. I just turned on Nina Simone, rolled down the window, and let the cool Indiana night slap me with the freedom I had earned one spreadsheet at a time. But as any real adult will tell you, the blast isn't the end. It's the beginning of the fallout. The group chat lit up before I even hit my driveway. Janine, of course, led the charge. Janine, unbelievable. You ambushed us in front of the whole family? Marcus, can't believe my own sister trying to sue me over some money. You were always like this. Power trip Claire. Janine, you ruined Thanksgiving. Me, you stole from our mother. I muted the chat after that. The next day, I got a call from Marcus. I didn't answer. Then I got a Venmo request for $1,000 labeled, let's talk, like we were negotiating used furniture instead of felony restitution. I screenshotted it and forwarded it to my lawyer. 2 days later, Janine left a voice message crying. Real tears. I didn't know where the money was from. Marcus said it was a gift. I used it for my kids. Please, Claire, don't do this. Here's the part that surprised me. I didn't feel angry anymore. Just hollow. Janine had always played the middle, always acted like choosing peace meant choosing silence. But when silence becomes complicity, you don't get to cry at the consequences. By the following week, word had spread through the extended family. My cousin Camille sent a one-line text. Girl, that dinner was better than TV. Rochelle, our older cousin who lives in Atlanta and hasn't been to Thanksgiving since Obama's second term, called me directly. I wish I had done what you did, she said. When our grandfather's estate got raided by Uncle Les, I just kept the peace. Now no one talks and nothing got fixed. That's when I knew. This wasn't about being petty. This was about refusing to inherit the silence. My mom didn't fully understand what had happened, of course. Her dementia was gentle but present, like a fog that rolled in and never fully rolled out. But when I visited her that Sunday, she looked up from her coloring book and said, "You look lighter." I told her I was just tired. She shook her head and smiled. "No," she said. "It's the kind of tired that comes after you've done something hard, but right." She didn't remember the money. Didn't ask about Marcus or Janine. She just patted the space beside her on the couch, handed me a crayon, and said, "Help me finish this." And I did. Quietly, coloring in a crooked sun with a woman who gave me life and taught me, without ever saying the words, that family without integrity is just shared DNA. And I knew then, with absolute clarity. I was done trying to fix people who liked the way they were broken. But I wasn't done with the consequences. Not yet. I picked up Mom from Maple Grove on a Tuesday morning under a pale November sky. The kind that makes the whole world feel like it's holding its breath. She wore her favorite teal cardigan, the one with the mismatched buttons, and a silk headscarf she'd knotted herself, crooked but proud. "You sure you want to do this?" the nurse asked me as I signed the discharge papers. "It's a big responsibility." I smiled. Not politely, genuinely. "It's mine." We left without fanfare. No flowers. No balloons. Just a cardboard box of crossword books, vitamin packs, and one framed photo of me and her at my college graduation. She couldn't remember the name of the ceremony anymore, but she'd pointed at the picture earlier that week and said, "That one's a good day." It was time to give her more of those. My house isn't big. 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, creaky floorboards, and a kitchen that still has the original 90s laminate counters that never seem to stay clean. But I'd converted the guest room into a warm little sanctuary. Floral curtains, thick rugs, and a reading chair under the window that looked out onto my modest garden and the neighbor's broken wind chimes. Her name was on the mailbox before she even stepped inside. We spent the first few days in a rhythm of slow mornings and quiet afternoons. I took time off work, burned through vacation days and sick leave like matchsticks, but it was worth it. The first night, as I tucked her in, she looked up at me and said, "I don't remember everything, but I remember I trust you." I stood in the doorway long after she fell asleep, watching her chest rise and fall under the comforter, and thought about Marcus, wherever he was, probably trying to find a new sucker. I thought about Janine and her sudden silence. About the group chat, now dormant like a grave. I didn't miss them. I missed the idea of them. The version of family I used to fantasize about. But that version had never really existed. 1 week after the move, a letter arrived. A certified envelope from Marcus's new legal representation. I opened it with a letter opener so sharp it sang. Inside was a 2-page diatribe claiming I had defamed him at Thanksgiving, traumatized Janine, and fabricated evidence. His lawyer, clearly someone he paid with monopoly money, demanded I retract the accusations or face character-based legal consequences. I handed it to my attorney. Marcy read it, chuckled once, and said, "Do I have your permission to eviscerate him professionally?" "You may proceed," I said, like a medieval queen giving the nod. 3 days later, her response was mailed. 12 pages, bullet-pointed, with attachments, the forensic audit, power of attorney documents, Indiana elder abuse statutes, and screenshots of Marcus thanking me for the money when things were tight. She CC'd the local district attorney for good measure. I never heard from his lawyer again, On the Saturday after all this, I was sitting on the front steps with a cup of coffee when Mom shuffled out and sat beside me. "This is a good house," she said, patting my knee. "Feels safe." "It is," I said. We watched the wind blow through the dry leaves. Somewhere down the block, a child was laughing. My phone buzzed on the railing, Janine, calling for the fourth time that week. I let it ring. Some things don't need closure. Some things just need a locked door and a new beginning. And I had both. It was a Wednesday. Cold, gray, that bone-deep Indiana chill that settles in your joints and doesn't let go until April. I was home, working through a stack of paperwork while Mom napped in the next room when the text came through. "Janine, baby shower is Sunday. I hope you'll come. We want you there. I'll save you a seat." I stared at the screen for a long moment. Not out of shock, no, Janine's gift had always been selective memory, wrapped in Hallmark politeness. But what did catch me was the wording. "We want you there." We. As if nothing had happened. As if Thanksgiving wasn't a courtroom dressed in side dishes. I didn't reply. I needed to think. Not about what to say. That part was easy. I needed to decide if I wanted to say it out loud. That Sunday, I didn't dress up. I didn't bake anything. I didn't show up with a wrapped present or write a sweet little card for the unborn baby of a woman who once accused me of tearing the family apart because I refused to keep secrets that were poisoning our mother's life. Instead, I waited until the last hour of the event, just enough time for the cupcakes to be gone and the real gossip to begin, and I called her. She picked up immediately, voice bright with fake warmth. "Claire, are you on your way?" "No," I said. Silence. Then, a hesitant laugh. "Well, we've still got time if you." "I'm not coming, Janine." "Wait, what?" "Why? I'm not Aunt Claire anymore." Another pause. I could hear the party noise behind her, women laughing, a playlist humming some top 40 song about unconditional love. "What are you talking about?" she asked, and for a moment, I could hear a crack in her voice. Real confusion. Or maybe just panic. "I mean exactly what I said. You called me selfish when I protected Mom. You took money that didn't belong to you, then treated me like a villain when I asked for accountability. You let Marcus run wild, and now you're playing house like none of it mattered. I didn't know where the money came from. You didn't ask." Silence. "I'm not interested in pretending anymore," I said, calm as snowfall. "There's no more Aunt Claire. There's just Claire. And she's done." The line was so quiet I thought she'd hung up. But then I heard it. The faintest sniffle. "You don't mean that." "I do. I'll always love that baby, Janine. I hope they grow up in a better version of this family. But I won't be part of the lie anymore." And with that, I ended the call. No drama. No screaming. Just the clean cut of a boundary drawn in concrete. I sat on my couch afterward, sipping tea, listening to Mom hum an old gospel tune in the next room. The apartment smelled like lavender and lemon oil. My peace was not loud or glamorous. It was soft. Earned. Unbothered. I picked up my phone again, not to check messages, but to open my journal. I flipped to a fresh page and wrote, "Closure is an ode. Sometimes it's chosen." And I chose it. With both hands. It's been 6 months since Thanksgiving. 6 months since I handed out forensic receipts instead of cranberry sauce and broke generations of silent suffering over a table with chipped wine glasses and pie that nobody ate after. And you know what? Not a single part of me regrets it. Mom's living with me full-time now. Her memory slips in and out like a guest who doesn't always call ahead, but her spirit, that is still sharp. Some mornings she doesn't remember the year, but she always remembers to ask if I've eaten. She can't tell you who won the last election, but she can recite Psalm 23 like it's stitched into her DNA. We have a rhythm. She colors in her giant print books while I work in the next room. I take breaks to check on her. She likes to sit on the back porch and listen to the birds. She calls them her choir. I haven't heard from Marcus since his bootleg lawyer went radio silent. I assume he's lying low, probably scamming someone else, though it won't be me. He still owes $84,726.42, and some decency. Only one of those can be pursued through collections. Janine, on the other hand, tried to rebuild the bridge. She sent me a birthday card. No apology. Just a soft pink envelope with the words, "Thinking of you," and a $25 Amazon gift card tucked inside, like that could somehow buy back trust. I didn't cash it. I didn't even open the app. Because I don't need her guilt dressed up as a gesture. I needed her honesty when it counted, and she chose silence. This past Sunday, I hosted brunch at my place. Not a huge event. Just a few people who've shown up for me without condition. My friend Tasha from work, Rochelle, who's now back in town, and Mrs. Givens from next door, who insists I call her Viv now, and brought champagne like it was a wedding. We used real plates. Sat around a circular table with no head. Everyone brought a dish. There were no secrets, no sides, no pretending. Mom sat beside me, laughing with Viv about old cooking tricks from their mothers, pointing out how I'd over-toasted the waffles. She was wearing her good sweater, the one with pearls sewn in at the collar. Her lipstick was a little crooked, but so was her smile, and both were perfect. At one point, Tasha raised a toast. "To Claire," she said, "who taught us that protecting your peace is a full-time job." We all clinked glasses. Mine shook a little, but only from emotion. After everyone left, I sat alone for a minute. The house smelled like maple and fresh flowers. Sunlight hit the table just right, casting a warm glow across every seat. I stood there, taking it in. This was my table now. No one got banished to the corner. No one stolen from. No lies passing as love. Just space I made. Space I kept. I pulled out my journal, leather-bound, worn, mine, and wrote the last entry for this chapter. Some families you're born into. Others you build, brick by righteous brick. This one I built, then I closed it, and sat down at the table I finally deserved.